In the expansive timeline of human history and spiritual quest, there exists a book of unmatched importance, the Quran. This revered text, more than just a piece of religious scripture, embarks us on a profound journey into the essence of faith, representing a continuous dialogue between humanity and the divine. Today, we will discuss the full story of the Quran as you have never seen it. Make sure you watch till the end because some parts will definitely be mind-blowing. The beginning. The inception of the Quran can be traced back to the dramatic and transformative events that unfolded in the arid, moonlit landscapes of 7th century Mecca, a time and place where the socio-political atmosphere was rife with tribal divisions and moral relativism. In this setting, the Quran began as a series of revelations to Muhammad, a man distinguished by his integrity and deep contemplation. These revelations occurred in the solitude of the Hira cave, a secluded spot on the outskirts of Mecca, where Muhammad often retreated to meditate and reflect. The atmosphere in the cave during the first revelation was heavy with anticipation and divine presence. It was here that the angel Gabriel appeared to Muhammad, marking the beginning of what would be a 23-year period of divine revelation. Gabriel's command to Muhammad, "Read in the name of your Lord who created," Quran 96:1, was profound, as Muhammad, who was historically not known to be literate, faced the overwhelming task of becoming the messenger of God's word. This moment is not merely a point of theological significance, but also marks a pivotal shift in the course of human spiritual history. The initial revelations were met with profound personal turmoil for Muhammad. Overwhelmed and unsure, he grappled with the weight of the divine words and his role as a prophet. Despite his initial trepidation, he soon embraced his calling, delivering messages that address the myriad complexities of life, from the oneness of God to the intricacies of human relationships. Each verse revealed offered guidance, challenged the prevailing norms of Meccan society, and laid the foundation for a new social and moral order. Meccan society at the time was characterized by its tribal structure, where loyalty to tribe often superseded any broader moral considerations. The societal norms were steeped in idolatry, with the Kaaba housing numerous idols that represented various deities. Economic disparities and social injustices were rampant, with little regard for the plight of the poor and the vulnerable. Against this backdrop, the messages of the Quran began to resonate, calling for unity in the worship of one God, advocating for justice, and uplifting the downtrodden. This message was radical in its simplicity and depth, challenging the polytheistic beliefs and tribal divisions with a monotheistic belief system that not only promised spiritual fulfillment but also a more equitable social order. As Muhammad continued to receive revelations, his role as a prophet became more defined. He began to attract a small group of followers, drawn by the promise of a society built on the principles of justice and monotheism. These early converts, who included people from various social strata of Meccan society, saw in Islam a hope for redemption and a new way of life. However, the growing popularity of Islam also drew the attention and ire of Meccan authorities and tribal leaders, who saw their traditional power structures threatened by this new faith. The challenges Muhammad and his followers faced were immense. Persecution became frequent, with many Muslims suffering at the hands of Qurayshi leaders. Despite these hardships, the revelations continued to provide not just spiritual guidance but also practical advice on navigating the tribulations of life in Meccan society. The Quran's verses reinforced a sense of resilience among the believers, encouraging them to maintain their faith and integrity in the face of adversity. This early period of revelation set the stage for the later developments in Islamic history, as the messages of the Quran would soon find a more receptive audience in Medina. The migration to Medina marked the next phase of Islamic development, where the foundational teachings from the Meccan period would be built upon to create a fully fledged Islamic state. But the seeds planted during those nighttime revelations in the Hira cave were crucial, for they represented the dawn of a new era in human spiritual thought, one that emphasized moral accountability, social justice, and the profound connection between creator and creation. Thus, the beginning of the Quran is not just the story of a text being revealed, but the story of a world being transformed by the power of divine word, channeled through a man who was to become the last prophet of Islam. The echo of those first revelations continues to resonate, underlining the Quran's lasting impact as a guide for millions through the ages, a beacon of wisdom in the vast expanse of human history and spiritual exploration. The journey. After the initial revelations in Mecca, the message of the Quran and the community of believers, or the Ummah, began to evolve and expand. This period marked a transition from the individual and contemplative revelations received in the solitude of Hira to a more communal and legislative phase that would further define the socio-political landscape of the region. This phase of Muhammad's prophetic mission is closely linked to the Hijra, the migration to Medina, which occurred in 622 CE. This migration not only marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar, but also signifies a pivotal shift from a persecuted minority in Mecca to a burgeoning religious community in Medina, where Muhammad was welcomed as a leader and arbiter. Upon arriving in Medina, Muhammad found a society that was starkly different from Mecca. Unlike the Quraysh of Mecca, who were largely merchants, the people of Medina were primarily agriculturists, and the society was characterized by its mix of Arab tribes and a significant Jewish population. The environment in Medina offered the fledgling Muslim community a unique set of opportunities and challenges, prompting revelations that addressed communal living, governance, and the establishment of a new social order based on divine principles. One of the first challenges Muhammad faced was creating harmony and cooperation among the diverse groups in Medina, including the Ansar, the helpers, or the native Medinans who helped the Meccan Muslims, and the Muhajirun, the immigrants from Mecca. To address this, the Constitution of Medina was established under Muhammad's guidance, which created a kind of alliance or federation among the tribes. This document was revolutionary as it laid down principles for political and religious unity, establishing peace agreements and the rights and responsibilities of all citizens, regardless of their religious affiliations. This move was crucial in mitigating tribal conflicts and integrating the Muslim and Jewish communities, which was vital for the political stability of Medina. The verses revealed during this Medinan period often had a legislative quality, covering laws on marriage, divorce, inheritance, and criminal justice. These revelations were not merely prescriptive. They sought to uplift the moral and ethical fabric of society. For example, the verses concerning the treatment of orphans and women advocated for fairness and compassion, challenging pre-Islamic practices that were unjust and oppressive. The economic instructions in the Quran, including the prohibitions against usury and encouragements towards charity, zakat, aimed to dismantle the entrenched inequalities and create a community where the economic well-being of each member was taken into account. Moreover, the Medinan period was marked by the challenges of defending the community against external threats. Several battles, including the famous Battle of Badr and the Battle of Uhud, were significant events that tested the resilience and unity of the Muslim community. The revelations during these times provided guidance on warfare and peace, underscoring the concept of jihad, striving in the way of God, which encompasses both the internal struggle against sin and the defense of the Muslim community against oppression. Interfaith relations in Medina also took on a new dimension, as the Quranic revelations sought to position Islam within the broader monotheistic tradition, acknowledging the previous scriptures and prophets from Judaism and Christianity. This was a significant move toward establishing an inclusive religious community that respected previous revelations while clearly delineating the unique aspects of Islam. As the community in Medina grew, the revelations increasingly addressed the practical aspects of creating a society based on divine principles. Issues such as governance, social justice, and interfaith relations were eloquently covered, providing timeless guidance. The story of the Quran's revelation during this time is not just a historical account, but a narrative of transformation. It speaks of a journey from ignorance to enlightenment, from division to unity, and from despair to hope. Through its verses, the Quran offered a new way of seeing the world, a revelation that continues to guide millions to this day. The journey of the Quran, from a series of divine revelations to a single cohesive text, is a story of meticulous preservation and unwavering dedication. This narrative underscores how the divine messages received by Muhammad were not static, but dynamically responded to the evolving needs of a growing community, laying down a comprehensive blueprint for a society that balances the spiritual with the practical, the individual with the collective, and tradition with innovation, preservation, and literary art. The preservation of the Quran is a pivotal aspect of its history, reflecting the profound reverence with which it has been regarded by successive generations of Muslims. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the task of safeguarding the Quran's verses for future generations became a paramount concern among his companions. This endeavor was not only about preserving a religious text, but also about maintaining a divine message that was seen as the final testament of God's will to humanity. Initially, the Quran was preserved through memorization and oral transmission. The Arabs of the 7th century had a strong oral tradition, and many of Muhammad's companions, known as Sahaba, had committed the entire Quran to memory. These individuals were called Hafiz, or guardians of the Quran. This method of preservation was crucial, especially during the Prophet's life and the early years following his passing. However, the fragility of relying solely on memory became apparent with the death of many who had memorized the Quran during the battles that Muslims fought to defend their community. This led to the first caliph, Abu Bakr, initiating the compilation of the Quran into a written format to prevent the loss of any portions. The task of compiling the Quran was entrusted to Zayd ibn Thabit, a close companion of Muhammad who had previously served as his personal scribe. Zayd approached this task with meticulous care, collecting written fragments of verses that had been recorded on diverse materials such as parchment, stone, palm leaves, and the shoulder blades of camels. He cross-verified each verse with those who had memorized the entire Quran, ensuring that the written compilation accurately reflected the revelations as Muhammad had recited them. This first compiled manuscript of the Quran under Abu Bakr's caliphate was kept with him until his death and was later passed on to the second caliph, Umar, and subsequently to his daughter, Hafsa, who was one of Muhammad's widows. The third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, recognized the need for further action as Islam expanded beyond the Arabian Peninsula into Persia, Byzantium, and Africa. Variations in Quranic recitation began to emerge, driven by dialectical differences among new converts to Islam. To preserve the uniformity and integrity of the Quran, Uthman ordered the preparation of a standard copy based on the manuscript in Hafsa's possession. Zayd ibn Thabit, along with other companions knowledgeable in the Quran, were tasked again to create several copies of this standardized version. which were then distributed to the major Islamic provinces. Uthman's decisive action ensured that the Quranic text remained consistent across the expanding Islamic empire, with all other versions ordered to be burned to avoid confusion. The preservation of the Quran also extends into its literary aspects, which are as unique as they are profound. The Quran's style is unparalleled in its eloquence and beauty, characterized by a rhythmic and sometimes rhyming prose known as Saj. This style captures the listener's and reader's attention, drawing them into a spiritual and emotional experience. The text abounds with vivid imagery, parables, and allegories, making its teachings accessible and relatable to people across different times and places. One of the most remarkable features of the Quran's style is its use of repetition. Certain verses and themes are revisited throughout the text, each time offering a new layer of meaning or a different perspective. This stylistic choice serves not just as a literary tool, but as a way to reinforce the core messages of the Quran, embedding them deeply into the reader's consciousness. The Quran's linguistic beauty is often considered inimitable, posing a challenge to the finest poets and linguists of the time, and even today. This challenge, known as the Ijaz al-Quran, the inimitability of the Quran, asserts the divine origin of the text, inviting skeptics to produce a work of comparable eloquence and depth. In summary, the structure and style of the Quran are integral to its message as much as the content itself. They elevate the text beyond mere religious scripture, transforming it into an enduring spiritual and literary masterpiece that continues to inspire and guide millions around the world. The Quran, in its final form, is not only a collection of divine revelations, but also a multi-layered experience offering a pathway to spiritual enlightenment and moral guidance. The meticulous efforts in its preservation reflect the deep commitment of Muhammad's companions and later Muslim communities to maintain the purity and accessibility of the Quran as a living guide for all aspects of life. Themes. The Quran, through its profound and multifaceted themes, offers a comprehensive guide for life, addressing the spiritual, ethical, social, and legal aspects of human existence. The themes interwoven within the Quran not only provide the foundation for Islamic belief and practice, but also invite believers and scholars alike to delve into its rich tapestry of divine wisdom. These themes are both timeless and universal, resonating with the core of human experience and aspiration. One of the most central and defining themes of the Quran is the concept of Tawheed, or the oneness of God. This fundamental principle underscores every aspect of Islamic theology and philosophy, emphasizing that God is singular, unique, and incomparable. The Quran repeatedly calls attention to God's sovereignty, omniscience, and omnipotence, challenging any polytheistic beliefs and practices prevalent at the time of its revelation. This theme serves not only as a theological assertion, but as a call to worship solely without associating partners with God, which is considered the gravest sin in Islam. The Quran narrates the stories of various prophets who were chosen by God to guide humanity. These stories are not merely historical accounts, but are imbued with moral and spiritual lessons. The narratives of prophets such as Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, peace be upon them, emphasize their struggles, their steadfastness, and their ultimate reliance on God. Through these stories, the Quran establishes the continuity of God's message and the brotherhood among the prophets, each reinforcing the core messages of monotheism and morality. The Quran provides detailed guidance on what constitutes moral and ethical behavior. It addresses a spectrum of moral dilemmas and ethical challenges, offering a moral compass for navigating the complexities of life. Issues such as truthfulness, integrity, justice, and the prohibition against deceit and oppression are recurrent themes. The Quran encourages believers to establish a society that upholds justice and to be especially mindful of the needs of the vulnerable, including orphans, the poor, and travelers. Closely related to its moral guidelines are the Quran's teachings on social justice. These include rights and responsibilities within the community, the importance of family, and the roles of individuals within a societal framework. It advocates for economic equity, condemning usury and promoting charity, zakat, as a means of redistributing wealth and reducing poverty. The Quran also emphasizes the importance of consultation, shura, within the community, promoting a form of governance that involves participation and advice. The Quran provides vivid descriptions of the afterlife, detailing the moral consequences of one's earthly actions. It describes the Day of Judgment as a time when every individual will be held accountable for their deeds. The themes of heaven, paradise, and hell are depicted in a manner that encourages believers to reflect on their actions and strive for righteousness. These teachings are intended to instill a consciousness of the temporal nature of earthly life and to motivate ethical conduct and devotion. While the Quran is a religious text, it strongly emphasizes the use of reason and reflection. It invites believers and non-believers alike to ponder the signs of God in the universe, in their own selves, and in the historical process. The Quran challenges its audience to think critically about their beliefs and the world around them, promoting an active engagement with faith that is both intellectual and spiritual. The Quran's approach to other religions is characterized by a respect for previous scriptures and prophets, while clarifying the distinctiveness of its own message. It calls for respectful dialogue and understanding among followers of different faiths, recognizing the common roots and shared ethical foundations. This inclusive perspective not only bridges historical divides, but also fosters a more harmonious coexistence in a pluralistic world. The exploration of these themes reveals the Quran as a text that transcends the mere provision of legal rules or doctrinal teachings. It delves deeply into the psychological and spiritual aspects of human life, offering guidance that aims to elevate the human condition by aligning it with divine will. In essence, the Quran's themes weave together the individual's journey toward spiritual fulfillment with the collective human quest for understanding, compassion, and moral integrity. Modern relevance and interfaith dialogue. In contemporary society, the Quran continues to demonstrate its enduring relevance through its teachings, which address a myriad of modern challenges, from societal issues and global ethics to personal development and interfaith relations. The universal principles embedded in the Quran ensure that its guidance remains applicable, regardless of the changing times and contexts, providing insights that resonate with the needs and questions of today's world. The Quran's teachings, while deeply rooted in the historical and cultural context of 7th century Arabia, are not confined to any particular time or place. This adaptability is evident in how Islamic scholars and believers interpret the text to address contemporary issues. The principles of justice, equality, and compassion found in the Quran are applied to modern contexts such as human rights, economic disparities, and international relations. For example, the Quranic emphasis on justice has inspired movements for social and economic reforms in Muslim-majority countries and communities around the world. The Quranic call for ethical behavior transcends the boundaries of time, urging believers to act with integrity and responsibility. In a world grappling with moral complexities, the Quran's emphasis on ethics offers a stable foundation for addressing issues like environmental stewardship, corporate ethics, and social responsibility. Its teachings encourage a balanced approach to consumption and resource management, reflecting the Quranic view that humanity is a steward of the earth. The Quran advocates for the pursuit of knowledge, encouraging observation, reflection, and learning. This respect for knowledge has historically motivated Muslims to excel in various scientific fields during the Islamic Golden Age, and it continues to inspire today's Muslim scholars and scientists. The Quran's compatibility with scientific inquiry demonstrates its relevance in an age defined by technological advancement and underscores the harmony that can exist between faith and reason. One of the most significant aspects of the Quran's modern relevance is its approach to interfaith dialogue. The Quran recognizes the commonalities among the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, referring to Jews and Christians as people of the book and emphasizing shared beliefs and moral foundations. This recognition provides a platform for mutual respect and dialogue, which is crucial in a globalized world characterized by religious diversity and multicultural interactions. The Quran's teachings on tolerance and understanding are employed to foster relationships between different religious communities. By focusing on shared values such as compassion, justice, and peace, Muslims are encouraged to engage positively with followers of other faiths, promoting a message of unity and cooperation. This approach not only helps to mitigate conflicts, but also enriches the collective spiritual and moral life of global society. Despite its profound contributions, the Quran is not without its critics, especially in a world that increasingly values secular and liberal ideals. Issues such as gender roles, religious freedom, and the interpretation of Sharia, Islamic law, often come under scrutiny. Muslims face the challenge of articulating and demonstrating how Quranic teachings are compatible with contemporary values of equality and freedom. This involves engaging in scholarly exegesis and public discourse, addressing misconceptions, and exploring the Quran's deeper philosophical and ethical dimensions. The need for contextual interpretation becomes evident as Muslims navigate the complexities of applying ancient texts to modern-day issues. This dynamic engagement with the Quran highlights its flexibility and depth, encouraging a continuous dialogue within the Muslim community and beyond about how best to live out its teachings in the modern world. In conclusion, the modern relevance of the Quran and its role in interfaith dialogue underline its function not just as a historical document, but as a living text that continues to inspire, guide, and adapt to the changing realities of human society. Through its enduring principles and dynamic interpretations, the Quran remains a vital source of wisdom for addressing the spiritual, ethical, and social questions of our time. This ongoing relevance ensures that the Quran continues to be a beacon of guidance for millions around the world, advocating a path of righteousness, peace, and mutual understanding among all people.